Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving deep into a work that, well, many consider a fundamental cornerstone for anyone venturing into quantitative organizational research.
Hmm.
It's B.S. Pawar's Theory Building for Hypothesis Specification in Organizational Studies, a text that first made waves back in 2009.
Right, and it's been updated too, hasn't it, recently?
Yeah, exactly. Revised editions as recently as I think 2024 or maybe even 2025. That really shows its staying power.
And what's fascinating here, for our purposes, is that our source material gives us a really comprehensive critical review of the book.
Ah, okay. So not just the book itself.
No, a full review, which is great. It gives us a fantastic shortcut to, quickly grasp its essence, understand its specific focus, and really zero in on what makes it so impactful.
Right. So our mission today then is to kind of cut through the academic layers, the jargon
Yeah.
maybe, and show you exactly what makes this book so highly regarded. We'll explore who it's truly for, and maybe most importantly, why understanding Power's precise approach could be a genuine game changer if you're navigating the world of, well, serious research.
Exactly. And ultimately, what we're aiming for here, I think, is to help you figure out if this particular methodological approach,
Hmm.
if it aligns with your own learning or, your research needs.
Especially in the social sciences, right?
Absolutely.
Especially there.
Okay, so let's get into what this book is actually all about.
Hmm.
At its core, Pawar's work is very squarely focused on positivist quantitative research.
Okay, let's pin that down. What does that mean for the listener?
Well, it's essentially a detailed guide. It's for developing a robust theory, moving you from those initial concepts all the way to building models and, crucially, formulating testable hypotheses.
Right.
And Professor Power, he isn't just anyone throwing ideas out there. He's a seasoned researcher, a teacher in organizational behavior and HR. Got his PhD from Oklahoma State.
And he's held faculty roles at top places. I am Metabod, I am Koshikode XLRI. So he brings a lot of real-world academic experience to the table.
And that background is, I think, really crucial because it informs his very specific approach. When we talk about positivist and quantitative,
Mm-hmm.
what does that really mean in practice?
Good question.
It means this book is designed for researchers who are looking to test theories using measurable data, turning observations into actual testable predictions.
So very empirical.
Very empirical. It's
Hmm.
about building knowledge through evidence in a really structured way, almost like a scientific laboratory kind of approach, if that makes sense.
It does. It sounds incredibly structured, almost like a manual. What immediately stands out about this book, from the review at least, is its almost surgical precision in its structure.
Hmm.
It really is laid out like a step-by-step guide. It starts with foundational concepts defining what theory even is in relation to reality and science.
Which is something a lot of researchers, especially early on, kind of struggle with, right? Moving from a general idea to a concrete theory.
Exactly. So what's special about Power's approach to, say, the units of theory or the theory building processes? What makes it so effective for maybe doctoral students?
Well, I think that's where its genius lies, really. Instead of just, broadly discussing theory,
Hmm.
Power gives you maybe like a Rosetta Stone for translating complex ideas into concrete research questions.
Okay.
He systematically breaks down these units of theory. He shows how abstract concepts, what we call constructs like organizational commitment, perhaps.
Right, something intangible.
Exactly. How those need to be rigorously defined. Then they get linked to variables that are actually measurable in the real world,
Ah, okay. Making it concrete.
making it concrete, all connected through logical premises to build a solid theoretical foundation. It's a very meticulous, almost architectural way he guides you.
Architectural, I like that.
Yeah, you construct your theoretical arguments, and it helps reveal potential weaknesses before you even start collecting data,
Yeah.
which is huge.
That level of rigor must be incredibly valuable, yeah. And then he moves to the core of the book, hypothesis specification. How to turn that meticulously built theory into testable hypotheses. Does he offer a kind of unique blueprint here?
Oh, absolutely. This is where the book truly shines, according to the review. Hypothesis specification. He provides this disciplined, logical articulation of the relationships between concepts.
So moving beyond just correlation.
Way beyond. It's transforming broad theoretical statements into precise, empirically testable predictions. It's not just about forming a guess. It's about constructing a prediction that can be, unequivocally proven or disproven with data.
Which makes your research undeniably rigorous.
Exactly. And apparently later editions even include an afterword. He sort of reflects on tying all this theory to practical use, which is a nice touch.
That is nice. So, okay, the picture I'm getting is concise, holistic, and incredibly effective for its stated purpose. Our source also points out that it's widely adopted in MPhil and PhD programs, praised for being excellent for doctoral students and researchers.
Yeah, that pedagogical strength comes through clearly.
And interestingly, while it's rooted in organizational studies, its principles seem to extend outwards, right? To fields like HR, marketing, strategy.
Even psychology and sociology, yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, he cites established theorists from various domains, so it has that broader base.
Okay. But given that, razor-sharp focus you mentioned, does it ever feel maybe too narrow? Does it risk missing some broader theoretical context?
That's a fair question. And what's fascinating here, I think, is that its strength is its focus. It's not trying to be everything to everyone.
Right.
It's purely concentrated on hypothesis-oriented theory building.
Mm.
And that makes it incredibly effective. But it naturally comes with specific boundaries.
Okay.
Our source highlights two key limitations, and it's important to see these not as weaknesses in its own domain, but more as clear delineations of its scope.
Right. Defining what it isn't. So what are those two boundaries?
Okay, first, because of its strong positivist emphasis, it's, well, less suitable for qualitative, interpretive, or critical research approaches.
Makes sense. If you're exploring meaning, not measuring variables.
Exactly. If your goal is to understand deeply nuanced meanings or explore subjective experiences, this probably isn't your primary text.
And the second limitation.
Second, it's explicitly not a grand theory text.
Yeah.
It focuses on, let's say, incremental research and very specific hypothesis specification.
Rather than proposing sweeping, overarching theoretical frameworks that try to explain everything.
Basically, it's about building knowledge piece by piece, testably.
Okay. So the key takeaway here for your research journey, if you're listening, is really deciding. Are you aiming to test specific hypotheses with data? Or are you perhaps delving into deeper, more nuanced meanings and experiences? Your answer will really tell you if this book is the right companion for you.
Yeah, that distinction seems critical for knowing if it's a good fit.
That makes perfect sense. So what are others saying about this book? You mentioned the source as a review, but what about other academic takes or user reviews?
Well, the academic reviews seem pretty laudatory, quite glowing, actually. The IIMB Management Review, for instance, calls it extremely well-written, abundantly useful, and a seminal contribution.
High praise.
Very high. Personal Today describes it as a holistic guide to theory building. Essential reading for postgraduate research. The Journal of Entrepreneurship apparently highlights its role in filling a pedagogical gap and fostering creative research ideas.
Filling a gap, okay.
Yeah, and the South Asian Journal of Management notes its usefulness for grasping core research terms and as a ready reference tool. So consistently positive on the academic side.
And what about everyday users? People who've actually bought it and used it. Any insights there?
Yeah, there are some user comments mentioned. Some Amazon reviews apparently call it a one-stop shop for theory building. Should be required reading. Things like that.
Okay, so strong user endorsements too.
Mostly, yes. However, there was a more critical reviewer mentioned who suggested that while it's conceptually very strong, it perhaps offers less on real-world decision impact.
Ah, the application side.
Right. But, this actually aligns perfectly with what we've been saying about its focus. It's about crafting theory, not necessarily direct business application guides.
That's a fair point. It clarifies its purpose rather than undermines it. So this all seems to point to a very specific readership then. Who exactly is this book for? And just as importantly, who isn't it for?
Okay, yeah, let's nail that down. This book is primarily for PhD and MPhil students and fellow researchers working within quantitative, organizational, and managerial studies.
The core audience.
And core audience. Also, maybe academically inclined managers or researchers just seeking a crisp, precise reference for that specific task, converting theory into testable hypotheses. That's its niche.
And who should maybe look elsewhere?
Well, it's explicitly stated, apparently, as not ideal for qualitative researchers.
Yeah.
That's clear. Also, probably not for those who are pursuing grand theoretical propositions, the big picture thinkers maybe,
Right.
or practitioners who want direct business applications beyond the theory crafting itself.
Yeah.
It really is a specialist's tool,
Yeah.
not a general purpose hammer.
That sums it up well. A specialist's tool. So, for you listening, if your goal is to systematically convert theory into empirically testable hypotheses,
Huh.
then Power's theory building for hypothesis specification sounds like a concise, really well structured, and scholarly text. It comes highly recommended as a core textbook or maybe a reference manual, particularly for quantitative research methodology.
Definitely seems that way. It knows its job and does it well.
So, we've talked a lot about what this tool is for, its specific strength.
Right.
But this raises maybe an important question for you to think about. How does knowing what a tool isn't for? How does understanding its limitations inform your broader approach to learning and problem solving?
That's a great point. It's not just about finding the right tool, but also recognizing why others aren't right for a particular task.
Exactly. Think about how recognizing limitations, not just strengths, can guide you. Not just to the right book in this case, but maybe to the right kind of knowledge for your particular deep dive into any subject you're exploring.
Food for thought, definitely.
hmm
Understanding the boundaries is as important as understanding the core.
Keep diving deep and keep asking the right questions.